Hi everyone, Dr. Dave Lucas here. Remember that we'll continue to use our concise public speaking handbook as a guide. This isn't exactly all the material I'm using as I make this presentation, but did want to give credit to Stephen Beebe and Susan Beebe, as you know. So make sure that if you get a chance, get a copy of that and read it. In this particular set of videos, we're using the 5th edition. I'm Dr. Dave Lucas, and I've been public speaking for a long time. More than 30 years. Don't want to weigh you down with that, but wanted to give you that idea. Today we're talking about different kinds of speeches, and it's very important for you to get this in your head that speeches are used for various reasons and various opportunities and occasions. One of the most important speeches we have as we continue to think about public speaking is the speech to inform. These are used everywhere and often, and it's very important for you to realize that as we do these speeches, we're able to give people information. These speeches are not designed to sell automobiles. They are not designed to persuade someone to do something. That comes next. These speeches lay out information. This is especially important for someone like me teaching a course like this, trying to get you to learn about how to do public speaking. I lay out a lot of information, but you still have to try to follow those rules of public speaking. In a speech to inform, we do have an introduction. We have 2 or 3 or 4 points, then we have a conclusion. So you have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Just like I've said all along, we imitate life that way. But in these speeches to inform, we can use different kinds of processes. For example, we inform you about an object, about a new camera, about a new computer, about something that's interesting, a radio tower, a new phone. There's all kinds of ways in which we can inform people. Now remember, we don't carry it to the next level and try to sell them on this. We're only giving the information. You could, for example, give the plus and minuses, letting the audience decide what they think about the object. But it is important that we realize that we give people information about objects. Second, procedures. How to get out of the building in case there's a fire. How to do a public speech. How you go through the process of signing up for a course, how you do this, how you do that. You're going to do this everywhere you work to explain a procedure. Once again, this really isn't persuasion. It's just you giving a step-by-step manner of how you accomplish these particular tasks. Or you can give an informative speech about people. Adolf Hitler. You don't try to persuade people he was a monster, or you don't try to persuade people he was a great guy. You merely give his background, birth, his life, accomplishments, detriments, etc. You could do this with anyone. Thomas Edison, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Dr. Dave Lucas. Anyone you pick out, you can give people information about people, about a person. We do this all the time. Think about it. It's very important for us to give a report sometimes about a particular person that's done something great. About an idea. Now this is abstract to say the least, but we take an idea and explain to people what might happen in the future, or we tell about a new idea that someone has brought up. And finally, an event. We give people about an event. We don't necessarily try to get them to go. You could talk about the Watermelon Festival. You could talk about the Walnut Festival or the Ramp Festival or anything that you might want to talk about. How we got Christmas, how we ended up with Thanksgiving. This is what I'm talking about, that you talk about events. These informative speeches are powerful and are used every day, everywhere. And I guarantee you, as you continue in your education and in your career, you're going to use this one. So take a look at it, Google it, think about it, informative. Next is the speech to persuade. This one again is used everywhere all the time. I'm trying to persuade you often to get up and give your speech. Stand up and don't sit down when you give a public speech. We are trying to touch one of these areas. An attitude or attitudes, beliefs, which are a little bit lower than attitudes, values, which are deeper than these up here, attitudes, beliefs, then these values, something we hold very dear, your religious concepts, for example, and behaviors. We want to change your purchasing behavior, your dining behavior. We want to change your car manufacturing choice. We want you to choose our car, not their car. buy our automobile, go do this, go do that, go on vacation here. Always, every day, you're bombarded with persuasive attempts to change your attitudes, your beliefs, your values, or your behaviors. Now brings us then to the idea of some pretty important people. First of all is Aristotle. Aristotle, as you may recall, talked about there are three aspects of good persuasion. One is ethos, which is ethics, credibility. Logos, the actual message, that it has sensibility. And pathos, that it has some enthusiasm, energy, and emotion. Ethos is where we get the word ethics. Logos is where we get the word logic. Pathos is where we get that idea of, well, we use the word pathetic, meaning we feel sorry for you, so this represents feelings. So you have to have good credibility. People have to trust what you're saying. You have to have a good, solid, organized content, which is what we've been working on, and you have to have energy and power and punch to make it happen. Now, all of this, Aristotle said, were the components to good persuasion. Now, Maslow's hierarchy of need talks about what human beings need. For example, belonging. They need physiological needs like air, water, clothing, etc. So you can take a look at those things and think about how are you going to persuade people. When you give a persuasive speech, you're trying to affect one of these areas. What areas? What do you want to affect? Most of the time, buying behavior is where we go to, but there are a lot of others that we can do also. Then finally, we have these speeches for special occasions. Now, that would be sort of your demonstration speech. Now, that's a blend between the speech to inform and the speech to persuade and maybe even special occasion. If you're going to show me how to bake cookies, or you're going to show me how to paint an automobile, or you're going to show me how to shoot a bow and arrow, all of those are sort of demonstration speeches, and they can be done in various ways. In the speech courses, you want to keep them brief and just something very simple so that you can go through the process of describing a process or describing an event or describing something and how it happened and so forth on those demonstration speeches. Special occasions may be a ceremony, a bridge opening, a dedication, maybe a dinner. Sometimes you have these dinners, and after dinner speeches, they have a few jokes, and you tell about somebody or something that's happened really well. A good example of a ceremonial speech is one at graduation. When we have someone get up and talk about how great it is that you're getting your certificate or your degree, and we're conferring this degree on you, and this is a great experience. That's a good example of how those ceremonial speeches are so important to us as humans. And then finally, these small groups. You're going to do this too. You're going to present to a small group. You're not going to be in a great big auditorium all the time, but you're going to be in front of 17, 18, maybe 22 people, maybe even as little as 10 or 11. But you have to be convincing, and you have to go back through all these other things that we've talked about. So it's important for you to realize that there are different ways in which we speak. There are different purposes. There are different occasions. We have a general purpose and then a very specific one. And I hope that you've picked up from your reading and from your thinking and by watching these videos how to be a better public speaker. I hope that you'll realize that for the rest of your career, wherever you go, when you speak, you're going to do one of these areas. You're going to pick out one of them. That's going to be the purpose. I've enjoyed having you. I hope that you've learned a lot about public speaking. I'm Dr. Dave Lucas, and I want you to really get up there now and do a great job and tell people all about it. You've learned how. Let's make it happen.